Hello everybody, welcome back to another review. As promised, I was going to be reviewing the latest from Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan, and that would be the film Ammonite. I think that's how you say it. I kept trying to hear it in the film, how you pronounce the name of the film, but I'm going to go with Ammonite. If I'm wrong, I do apologize. Um, so Ammonite is a period piece that details the uh, two women played by Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan, and how Kate Winslet is a fossil hunter of some kind, and she takes on a Saoirse Ronan as kind of like her uh, her apprentice of some kind, and uh, one thing leads to another. Once they start to bond for a little bit, they eventually start to fall for each other, and it becomes a story that um, I've seen earlier this year um, in the film called Portrait of a Lady on Fire, because um, the big thing that people have been talking about with Ammonite is that, yes, it shares a lot of similarities to Portrait of a Lady on Fire. It is a very, very similar film. Um, but in terms of overall quality, they are extremely different. Um, because Portrait of a Lady on Fire is one of my favorite films of the year. I love Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Technically, yeah, if you saw it in 2019, it counts for a 2019 film, but if you saw it in 2020 when it officially released worldwide, it counts as a 2020 film. And it's one of the best films of this year. Um, because the development is strong, the cinematography is so beautiful, and narratively it strikes in all the right chords. This film has some strengths to it, but there are issues. So let's get into it. So the first thing I have to say right off the bat that I actually, when I was first hearing it, I actually thought, wow, this is actually quite good for a film. I wasn't expecting this to be one of the strengths of the film, and that is the sound design. The sound design is actually quite good in the film. And because I was wearing my headphones too, so I could hear like the drips of the water. I could hear people going upstairs. I could hear the creak of the wood. Very nice sound design right off the bat. Um, then once we start getting into the characters, once we start being introduced to Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan, I immediately fell into Saoirse Ronan's character. I really liked Saoirse Ronan's what she delivers into her role. I think that she really had I would say, fairly realized character, and I was able to understand a little bit more of her inside and how that translates outside. And again, Saoirse Ronan, I think, just delivers. I think she's very good in the film, and I think that she's definitely the strength to the film, in my general opinion. Um, Now, once it becomes intimate, once these two characters become intimate, as expected, Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan, once they actually become intimate, I would say that's actually where the development begins to show for both of these characters, particularly with Kate Winslet's character, because the whole time you're kind of left up to you're not you're not really in knowing how these characters are feeling, and once they start to become intimate to each other, that's when the development kind of really begins to show. Um, which brings me to my issues with the film, and that is this. As I kind of alluded to with the intimacy, if you don't have the intimacy, you have a huge lack of development, particularly with Kate Winslet's character. Mainly, it's due to two things. One, I would say it's due to um, the direction, because I have to imagine that the writing has a little bit more meat on the bone, because watching it, I was thinking there has to be more to the writing than I'm imagining it is. Um, but I do believe that it is due to Francis Lee's direction that the film falls very short in terms of development and narratively, because the film plays out rather quickly. The pacing and the length, I would say, is the biggest flaw to the film. Because we are introduced to Saoirse Ronan very quickly, they start to get intimate very quickly, and then they eventually, you know how this type of film kind of would. And if you watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire, they they do one thing differently at the end. I'll just put it that way. Um, or they do certain things differently in terms of their endings, but it's a very similar narrative. I'll just put it that way. Um, but in terms of characterization, Saoirse Ronan has something with her character that I just could not understand because of how the film was delivering it. Something due to her fear of the ocean. I don't really know what that displays, or I don't know where she gets that from. I understand that she is depressed. I understand that she's dealing with depression, and um, that she feels neglected and she feels like an outcast. She doesn't feel like that she's a part uh, of a healthy relationship. And all that's displayed very well from Saoirse Ronan's point of view. I think that Saoirse Ronan again delivers quite well. I just think that in terms of the overall development for her character, it falls short a little bit due to Francis Lee's direction. I don't imagine it's really due to the writing for the most part. Um, Now with Kate Winslet, I think that the reason why I found Saoirse Ronan quite good is because she kind of makes up for what Kate Winslet's lacking, and that is that Kate Winslet I think plays it very restrained. Now I have nothing wrong with someone playing it restrained, but you have to be able to display at a certain point some emotion, and she does at one point, but it's not enough to satisfy me. I wanted to see more of her um, when she is with Saoirse Ronan, why she starts to display a lot more, why she begins to speak much more, why she begins to represent herself a little bit more. Why does she do those things? Why? And I don't really get that from Kate Winslet's point of view. I think she just plays it a little too restrained for me. Um, and um, I mean, it has some decent shots there and there. I mean, there's one shot that's really beautiful in the film, but I didn't find the cinematography to be that all that impressive. I heard that was one of the things people were very impressed by was the cinematography. Was not really something that I was impressed by, to be quite honest. I thought the production design was fair, the costumes were nice, um, but at the end of the day, it's a fair romance. It's nothing too impressive as is Portrait of a Lady on Fire, or something as intimate as Blue is the Warmest Color. It's something that is suitable enough for a viewing, but ultimately you kind of leave thinking that there could have been a lot more. And while Saoirse Ronan keeps the film um, to a point, and the intimacy does keep bring some energy and life to the film, ultimately you kind of think that you just watched something that is was at early stages of development and just needed more and more time to fully develop, because ultimately at the end you're kind of watching something that feels incomplete. And that's kind of my thoughts on the film when I left it. I felt incomplete, and I really wish I didn't.